Joining us this morning, Vanessa Perdomo, host of the Business of Sports podcast on Bloomberg, and Eben Novy-Williams, deputy editor of Sportico. Eben, let me start with you, if I could. It's great to talk to you once again. I'd love for you to put this in context. Christina mentioning the kind of historical import of this just a moment ago. This was a team that had an okay regular season. We heard the players last night at that trophy presentation talking about how they were seeded going into these playoffs. This wasn't something that was kind of preordained going into them, was it?
It was definitely not preordained. I'm proud to say that I did stay up last night.
Bleary-eyed as well.
All right, you win. Yeah.
Not many things that have made me regret leaving New York City more than last night, for sure, just looking at the celebrations out there. Yeah, I think you see it in the way that people reacted. This was not a team that I think many expected to be this good this quickly. And look, the Yankees have won championships more recently, obviously. So have the Rangers. So have a lot of teams in New York. But basically none of them have had the kind of citywide impact that this Knicks run has had. So I think in some ways you're getting a sense that New York is a basketball town at its heart. And I think you're also getting a sense that 53 years for one of the most valuable basketball teams in the world, one of the most valuable sports brands in the world, is a really long drought for fans to have to wait between championships.
Eben, I want to play off of that. Vanessa, I want to go to you and talk about just the comeback story. I mean, this is New York. New Yorkers come back. We get knocked down. We come back up again. Is that kind of the reason why this resonated so much, too, with people in New York?
I think it's definitely one of the reasons that everyone in New York kind of got behind this team in such a big way. I think when you look at the wins, when you look at the come behind victories, I think it's one of the reasons why actually a lot of people outside of New York, became on the Knicks side throughout this tournament and throughout the finals, throughout the playoffs, because of the way that they were able to grind out these wins. I think it was a perfect representation of New York. And I think that everyone in New York, was able to get behind the team. I think, like Eben was saying, we've seen other championships recently, but the thing with the Knicks is a lot of people in the city, this is their team. We really have one team, one basketball team. The Nets are obviously in Brooklyn, but they're sort of new. So I think that this, for the city of New York, was everyone was behind this one team, and they really, truly represented the city in a way we haven't really seen in a long time.
It's been really interesting to walk around. I'm new to the city, and just to see people, no matter where you go, this is what they've been talking about it, and just across socioeconomic levels, cultures, language barriers, people understand Go Knicks. It's been awesome.
You bought a jersey for your dog.
I did buy a jersey for my dog.
I don't know that we have yet on there.
I'm fully bandwagoning, but it was cute, and I wanted, right? I should have brought him on set. Anyway, all right, Evan, I do want to ask you. I went to school in Texas. My roommate was a huge Spurs fan. I imagine they are not feeling great today. It kind of seemed a bit of a fait accompli after going down 3-1. Did they have a chance to come back? And then you saw Victor Wembanyama talking about this was, I think he said, is the biggest learning moment of his life. He's only 22. What's next for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways this is a little ahead of schedule for the Spurs. They had one of the youngest teams in the NBA, and they beat the Thunder, who a lot of people thought were going to kind of cruise their way to the NBA title. This was a dream matchup for the NBA to get the Knicks on one side, a 53-year title drought in the biggest city in the country, and then on the other side, get to showcase a young 22-year-old superstar who is going to be the face of this league, one of the faces of this league for the next decade plus. I think both of those things work out well. I think if you're the Spurs, you learn a lot from this. It was clear that some of these players were early in their career. I think even if you're not a basketball fan, I think you saw that towards the end of these games in this past week. But I think if you're ahead of schedule for the Spurs, you still have one of the most dominant and freakish athletes maybe the NBA has ever seen. And getting these reps when he's 22 probably makes him better when he's 24 or 25.
You forget how young these players are. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you. You forget how young these players are, because we've seen them for years, and they just read so much older, especially when they're in these press conferences. But 22, come on.
And Victor, we've been hearing about for it feels like for a decade almost, right? Because he's been a prospect for so long. But yeah, it does highlight how much more basketball we're going to see him play over the next 10, 15 years.
Vanessa, let me come back to you. You mentioned the Nets. I live close to the Barclays Center. This is kind of like the sad side story here. The fact that this win, I think, has coalesced a lot of New York around the Knicks. And I sort of wonder where it leaves the Nets, who have been, I don't want to say suffering, but really having a bad run of it here in recent seasons.
You know, the thing about the Nets is like I mentioned, they're decently new to New York City. You know, they came within, the last 14 years. They're not new to the NBA. They came with a lot of, history in New Jersey. But the thing is, they kind of left that history behind, actually, in the way that they marketed the team. So they don't have as many natural New York fans as they would probably like. And they have had a hard recent years when they did have, these generational players, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden. They had a few years ago, and it didn't pan out for them really at all. What truly probably one of the worst outcomes you could probably have with players like that. Mm-hmm. They're behind. And I don't know if it really is a story. You don't need to compare them necessarily. They are obviously in the same city, so people will do. But this is really about the Knicks' victory. I think that the Nets, they will prevail, but I think the good thing for the Nets owners, Joe and Clara Usai, is that they had a winner in the New York Liberty not that long ago.
Eben, I want to go to you about the future of the team. I mean, Jalen Brunson, MVP, a great leader for the team. So many of them came together like a big family. You heard James Dolan talking about them, saying, we're going to bring another championship back. It's not going to be the last one. You won't have to wait that long. What does the future of the team look like? I know trades are part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you keep this core together, I think the future is probably very bright. As we said at the beginning of the show, this was not a roster that at the beginning of the playoffs everyone said, "Oh, this is going to be a championship roster." So I think you have the ability to bring pieces in. It's New York, it's Madison Square Garden. All of the kind of aura around this team will make it easier to bring other players in. Personally, I'm more interested in the ownership future of the team. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of changes underway at Madison Square Garden Sports, as you guys know. There's a potential split between the Rangers and the Knicks. There is increasing chatter that the Dolan family may end up selling one of those two teams. That has been rumored on and off, I feel like, for the past 20 years. But yeah, as sports team valuations soar, the Lakers just sold for $10 billion. The Knicks, following this championship, would probably sell for quite a bit more. And even with the recent stock surge, the public markets don't value the Knicks in the same way that I think a private transaction would. So I'm very curious to see if this championship does anything to change the trajectory, and honestly what that trajectory is for what Jim Dolan is thinking about in the medium or longer term for the ownership of the Knicks.
Eben, let me pick up on that. I think that's so fascinating. So Jim Dolan presiding over a lot of different companies here. There's Madison Square Garden Entertainment and Sports, and then there's the Sphere, which I think has been attracting a lot of his time and attention, and I should say has done very well this year as well. So he's presiding over a lot of different enterprises that have had a real run here. What is the calculus that he's going through here? I can imagine him standing on that stage bathing in the adulation of all of these New York fans. That's kind of novel for him. It's not what he experienced at the beginning of his tenure sort of owning the team. Perhaps that might compel him, one might think, to kind of stick with the Knicks going forward. What's he going to be thinking through here in the months ahead?
Yeah, I think one of the things this split does is it makes it easier to bring on kind of a big chunk of outside capital for either of these teams. And as you guys know, that has basically been one of the biggest business stories in American sports in the last 5 years, is that all these leagues have changed their rules. You can now bring on institutional capital that can own, depending on the league, something between 30 and 10% or 0% of your team. And what we've seen in a few other times is that you start down that road and you start looking at valuation and you start talking to people, owners, institutions, and then you think, oh, you know what? Like, what would it look like if we sold this whole thing? And then suddenly a small transaction turns into a much bigger one. So I think on its face, I think he's trying to keep his options open. But again, as these team valuations soar, it doesn't seem impossible to me to think that at some point, and maybe at some point soon, Jim decides to sell one of these teams. I have no clue which one that would be. I think you could make an argument for one or the other. The Knicks are certainly more valuable than the Rangers. I think some people might say the Rangers are more undervalued than the Knicks are in terms of the markets, but the constant kind of changing around of what MSG and its sister companies and parent companies, the constant stock splits, et cetera, I think have gotten us to a point now where 10 years ago, it would have been very hard to sell the Knicks. And once this stock split, if it does happen and the Knicks basically become a separate publicly traded company, it becomes way easier to sell the Knicks. And that's not lost on me.
Vanessa, before we let you go, the ticker tape parade, we're doing our own version of it here. Like I
volunteer.
the crepe
Sign
paper.
up for the ticker tape parade.
This is not my best skill. I'm not sure what my best skill is, but this is not it.
Time to practice a few days.
I've never attended a ticker tape parade. I don't know if you have. What should folks expect, and how big is the city gonna throw a rager on Thursday?
The last ticker tape parade I had been to was the one for the New York Liberty in 2024. Listen, the city showed out then. People come out, they come out of work, they get out of school. And this city hasn't seen a championship in 53 years for the Knicks. They haven't seen a men's sports team championship since 2012. This city is going to be on fire. I would expect record-breaking numbers for this parade.